Hello, and welcome to the Comedy Winers podcast, where we get to know comedians and wine, one glass at a time. It's me, Steph, wine industry qualified nerd and comedian. Today we're chatting to Esther Manito. She has been paired with a very famous and important style of wine from the Champagne region. It is, of course, Champagne. Esther is an up-and-coming comedian, although she's kind of up-and-come, I guess. Her Live at the Apollo special has aired on the 15th of December, so it's really exciting to just understand and unpick what that experience was like. The champagne was fresh and vibrant, and of course it is almost Christmas just around the corner, so the perfect occasion to pop that cork. You can actually win a bottle of this champagne if you follow @Humble Grape on Instagram. And the Humble Grape in Canary Wharf was exactly where this was filmed. It's an awesome waterfront wine bar. Go if you're ever in the area. It is absolutely stunning, really fun, and the wines are delicious. I get an idea of exactly what this champagne tasted like through this conversation I had with the wonderful Esther Manito. I saw you doing Crusade at Edinburgh.
Did you?
Yeah, I was in the front, and I think you made me that young girl who didn't have kids and stuff.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
No, I loved it.
Was it?
Right.
Was it one of the really lovely, horrible ones where there was about 10 people in there?
Yeah, it was a day one, and it was quite brightly lit. The room. It was just like it felt like daytime.
What, this year?
It was
no.
It was pre.
Oh, so it was my first hour.
Yeah.
Oh God.
That was lovely.
Oh.
Why are you so cringy?
I think you do though. It's like things that you think are a really good fashion choice at the time, and then you look back and you go. So I look back on Crusade. Well, the thing is, I had some great shows in Edinburgh, some absolutely lovely shows, but there was, because it was my debut hour, and it was the year that everything got hiked up, so prices just went through the roof, and it was suddenly like, why would you pay that money to see me? And so it meant that everyone was kind of clambering for tickets. So whilst the weekends were great, there were some days in the week where it was just like you and 16 people, and they're all spread out around this room, and you're just like, oh. Does
that not sharpen your skills though?
It does. You definitely come back from Edinburgh just going, you can just walk. But I think that's true when you're gigging all the time anyway.
My first Edinburgh was meant to be 2020, like a split bill, half an hour.
Who are you going to do a split with?
A guy called Ben Morgan. Sorry, his name is Ben Ashurst now, stage name.
He's got a stage name.
Yeah, from like one English name to another, basically, because I think there's another Ben
It's
Morgan.
Gone from Ben John to Ben Smith, because he just wanted to add a bit of glamour to it.
It was going to be really nice. Like, we're both...
Where were you going to do it?
Similar style. In the really small karaoke booth room in the Three Sisters.
Oh, nice!
That really small one, which would have been perfect because I'd really like to fill it and have a bit of fun.
Yeah,
but
it's like Cabaret Voltaire has got a really tiny room that's quite good for.
I like those as a start.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah.
Because what am I going to be like in a echoey room, not being able to fill it? Like,
no, it's hell. No, you want to be. Oh God, even now, like I think I'm going to go to. I mean, I went to Edinburgh this year.
Yeah. And
I think I'm going to take that show again. Because I've got all the posters, I've got a show, why not just do it? But I will be in, I'll be in a small room again. I'm not,
You could probably sell out bigger ones.
No.
But, Adam Flood went up this year for the Edinburgh Fringe with Paddy Young, and they absolutely sold out.
I sold out. Everyone sold out, yeah. But
it.
next year it's going to be, well, it depends what happens. We don't know. It could all be cancelled. Touch wood, it is cancelled, yeah.
Edinburgh is like a real slog for a lot of people, but it's got to be done, and it does sharpen your skills. So, all right. Well, we're gonna move on to the wine now.
Okay.
Because I'm feeling fancy, and it's a Sunday morning, and I haven't had any alcohol yet. And what's that about? So today I've paired you with, you know what this is, right?
This is champagne.
It is champagne,
but I don't know anything about it.
So we're doing a series on French wine, and like I told you when I was asking you to please come on this podcast, it would be kind of rude not to do champagne on a French wine series.
And also, I did tell you that I only drink bubbly things.
100%. I was going to cover this. I was going to be like, the reason I've paired you with this wine is because you literally won't drink anything else. And also, there's a whole, champagne is opened on celebrations and stuff.
Yes.
Lots of emotion.
Yes.
Lots of, great times. And I see that as you're quite emotive in your own stand-up. A lot of emotion comes out on stage.
Oh, yes, yeah.
What kind of emotions come out on stage? Tell our lovely viewers.
Mainly just rage. So very angry, frustrated, exasperated, kind of clown woman.
Oh, I like that.
Because I think with Crusade, I wasn't as physical as I probably am now on stage. So I've definitely become a lot more comfortable in using the space. And because I'm a quite ridiculously shaped person. I'm very kind of tall. I mean, because I'm tall and I've got very long limbs, it's quite fun to be that kind of gangly, clown
and like
woman.
Expressive and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we could make a link to like all of the bubbles of champagne and how expressive.
I wouldn't say no one would ever describe me as a bubbly person. No one's ever.
Energetic.
And yeah. But I think when you say someone's energetic, people are like, oh, they're going to be kind of like what's his name, Lee Evans. They're going to have this kind of like playful, high energy, and it's not. It's. I mean, the words that have been to describe me has been angry, aggressive, rageful.
I love it.
Yeah.
Bitter. So one of the things I ask people is, how would you describe your comedy in 3 words? And you've kind of given me them.
Although that's not how I would describe my comedy, because that's all just emotions. How I describe my comedy, I would say it's definitely observational, because it's things that frustrate me. It's everything that pisses me off. So I'm not someone who'll be like, tables, what are they about? Or I wish I could have a better life, or I wish this was better, or I wish this was better. I'm just like, this is what it is, and this is all the things that really get on my fucking nerves.
Yeah, and you do unpack that quite a bit. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we can open this up now. As I've told you before, I'm not sure about my skills in opening the champagne. We hear a loud pop. That'll be me.
That'll be you.
That'll be me. Okay, so when was the last time you had champagne? Or anything sparkly? While I open this.
Last Sunday.
Was it?
Yes, I had.
What are you celebrating, I'm assuming?
I just went out for dinner with friends, but I had a lot of Prosecco based cocktail. Yeah, I am a Prosecco drinker mainly, yeah.
I was like, I can't do Prosecco because that's not French.
That's not French. But I do like a champagne. On Christmas I'll have champagne.
That's nice, because literally, this episode will be dropping like on the 23rd of December.
Oh, really?
This is the perfect drink.
This is the perfect drink. Oh, yeah. You've got to have champagne on Christmas morning.
Yes. Do you?
Yeah.
With your family around
I thought you said, do you need that, Esther? Is that something you have to have in order to spend time with your family? Yes, it is. Very much so.
I'm just going to be zooming in on like my face opening this right now.
Okay. I really want it to just ping, ricochet, and just smash every single one of all of those glasses that have been laid out really.
So they say with champagne that it's meant to open like really, really quietly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so all of this popping and stuff that a lot of people do, not good. It's meant to sound like a lady farting softly. Did you know that?
I haven't heard. I mean, I've heard that the glasses should look like breasts, shouldn't they?
Oh, the little saucers. Yeah.
Ah, that was done well.
Could have been a lady farting.
That could have been.
Could have been. You cover quite a lot of feminine stuff in your stand-up, don't you? Like ladies farting.
I don't do anything about farting.
Esther.
I know, but it's just not really my area.
Your area is
more the kind of vaginal. I'm not really into the.
I'd high five you right now because it sounds like my kind of stand up. Because I love it. Bum chat.
Well, I don't really find like toilet humour funny.
Do you not?
No.
I find it hilarious because I'm a child.
I don't. I'm not very good. I get really grossed out quite easily.
Okay.
So I can talk about myself being hairy and, vag after childbirth and all the rest of it, but I can't if someone's talking about shit and bums. I'm just like, oh.
So farting's off the cards then.
Mm.
Oh well, you heard it here first.
Well, this is a nice colour.
It is beautiful, isn't it? It's like a kind of gold almost.
It is. Now, I can't remember, but there's something about the reason why the bubbles go. You should have it in a glass where the bubbles go in that
Yeah, so this train of bubbles right now is called a collarette. And that's a really good sign of a good quality champagne when there's like kind of like
all in
connected.
the centre.
Yeah, all in the centre. It's because the flute basically like channels the flavours up in a specific way. But we're also drinking this champagne. For me, the main link for me was as a cause for celebration because you've recently done something quite special. And I'm going to hint at it because I'm going to let you explain it a little bit more. But yeah, Esther's essentially filmed her live at the Apollo.
Yeah.
And that's not even like metaphorical, like literally.
Filmed her live at the Apollo, my equivalent of live at the Apollo, which was 10 people in Bradford. So definitely
like, that's a big milestone in a lot of comedians. No, not in a lot of comedians' lives. Like, people want it to be a big milestone in their lives.
It is, and it's one of those things that shouldn't be overplayed and it shouldn't be underplayed.
100%, yeah.
Because I get the feeling that there is this thing of, it used to be the kind of pinnacle of doing stand-up comedy, and then, and that definitely is a milestone, and it's definitely something where you're like, yeah, it's a huge achievement, but it doesn't mean that you're not going to be doing all the kind of live gigs that you're doing. You're not going to be doing the clubs. You're not going to be going back to open mics and testing out material. So I can kind of see when people are just saying, you should just bark your orders and say you've just done Live at the Apollo. And I'm like, well, that's a bit of a ridiculous way to carry on, because it's all peaks and troughs in comedy, isn't it?
I think it's that mentality that is kind of the reason you got there in the first place, because it's a lot of hard work to get anywhere like that, I think. It's did you enjoy doing it?
Yeah, I loved it.
What was it like?
It's incredibly nerve-wracking.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, and the laughs are kind of like this wall of noise that just hit you, and it takes a while. Sometimes you're like, you'll say something and you're like, oh, that's a kind of smaller laugh, and then it just the waves get stronger, and then it just hits. So it's a really
like a delay.
Yeah, and there was a whole chunk in the set that I did where it's like this whole bit where it's just about husbands and how much they do your head in, and it was like, it was probably like, when I say a chunk, it's like 3 jokes, but that will take a good 3 minutes. Yeah. And when you're doing that set, it wasn't till I was about coming to the end of it, I was like, oh my God, that has been definitely just a wall of female laughs. And that was very,
I love that.
Where the guys were kind of like, oh, that's interesting that she thinks that. I don't know who these men are, because it's definitely not us. And just all the women that are sat with them are all just laughing because they're like, yeah, it's you.
I don't know if they're not identifying. I think there's an element of, sometimes when I see a man go up and he's talking about relationships, and it's not necessarily, I find it funny, but at the same time I'm learning something about the male psyche. So like another bit of my brain is working. It's not the laughter muscle, it's the, why does someone think this way about females? How can I become like a X, Y, and Z? And you're looking at it through a different lens.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, yeah. I've been in that situation where I haven't necessarily laughed at a male-driven joke.
But what I've noticed when I do that bit in clubs and stuff is that men will they'll kind of chuckle and they'll go, oh, this is her little take. But what makes them laugh is that the amount, and I see it all the time, of just women elbowing the bloke next to them going, that's you, and that will make them chuckle. But it was just that wall of recognition from a lot of women at the same time, all just going, yeah,
that's freaking awesome.
Wipe a fucking surface. That's all we want.
Would it kill you?
Would it kill you to just wipe fucking surfaces?
Oh my God! All right. So
really conscious I'm attached to this.
The nice.
They are
little decorations. They sort of match your hair a little bit from this angle. You can't see it really, but there's little.
Well, I'm not hugely into my hair at the moment because I went and had it coloured, and the hairdresser convinced me to go darker. Okay. And I was like, I'm not sure. And she was like, no, it'll be great because it'll match your eyebrows. But now it's gone really dark and I'm pretty convinced I look like a Dolmio puppet.
That is such a fucking niche take on her. I can't unsee it. Really. Yeah. That happened to me though. I was like meant to go like a natural ginger, like a lighter ginger, and it kind of went like a red ginger, and I was like, now I have to get used to it.
And it's so funny because other people will be like, oh, have you done something? Have you done something? Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, now my hair matches my eyebrows, and I just suddenly look all very cartoony and also very kind of faux Italian, like I'm some Nancy Delalio. I'm all very faux looking.
I love that. Really, that's a good look.
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna. Not necessarily one that I
don't know if Nancy Delalio is like a popular term anymore. Like, not as in popular, but like she's not in popular media anymore and stuff.
That is so nice.
Is it nice?
Oh God, I could whiz through that.
Esther, I'm going to smell it first and tell you what it smells like.
I've just gulped halfway through.
I like that. That
it
you
is
stick
dry.
to your brand.
That is dry.
Oh.
That is literally just...
Yeah, there's a lot of like acidity on it, a bit of green apples there, if you're smelling it.
Oh my God, there really is.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It does smell like an apple juice.
So I couldn't get that from smelling.
But you can taste it. That's good to know. A bit of lemon. They say on the notes here, white peach. Did you try that? No, less so.
What's a white peach?
I don't know.
I don't think...
Sometimes they like add
do they just make things up?
Because there's no difference between a white peach and a peach, but I guess what they're trying to say is it's a lighter, like a younger peach. Oh, I'm going to try it now. Yeah, that's appley. Appley.
It really is.
It's nice though. So yeah, I was going to ask you. You mentioned husbands. Your husband is
lots of husbands. Yeah,
all of the husbands. Esther has many. You've got the one.
And
oh you
God,
cover
can you
him
imagine
in,
having more?
I don't even have the one, so I'm not ready.
No.
You mentioned him in your set quite a lot. Neil, his name.
Yeah.
Even I know that, having not properly met you, so that's weird. But one of the questions I had for you was, UK is the 4th biggest importer of champagne, right? 28,000 bottles opened at Wimbledon every year. Winston Churchill loved it. How do you go about, because you're loved by Brits as well, aren't you? Your husband being one, British audiences.
Yeah.
Your mum is Geordie.
Yeah.
How has that shaped your comedy?
I think the one thing, because my parents divorced.
Okay.
which is fine, but my parents divorced, but because it was a bit of a disastrous marriage, but the thing that they had in common was very much sense of humour, and I think there is, my mum's side were Geordie, but there was a lot of Irish heritage on her side, and so there was that kind of communal family sitting around, or all going to like the working men's club where the men will sit together, the women sit together, and there's a lot of jokes, a lot of bantering, and that's really similar in Arab culture. And I think that's pretty much why you get a lot of people who mix from Celtic backgrounds and either Middle Eastern or African background. There are so many people who have that mix because family-wise and social-wise, it's actually quite similar.
Is it like, okay, the culture is similar, but the fire and the passion and the sensible nature and politeness of the Brits is quite different? How does that work?
So it's been a bit of an eye opener for my husband. Like me and my husband, when we got together, it was very, very, very different. And I think at first I tried to kind of make my husband's family think that I'm going to use the word normal. How bad is that? But that's because when I was growing up, I was like, I just wish I was normal, because all my family was like all kind of different and loud. And then the moment I just got to a point where I was like, oh, it is what it is. They kind of just accepted it, and now everyone just kind of accepts the differences within the family. But it is it's very culturally different.
I'm fascinated by it, and there's a real like personal reason why I asked that, because my dad is Italian, my mum's Polish,
right?
And the men I tend to date are British, and there seems to be a problem with me in my life where I attract these people and they think I'm all sweet and docile and stuff, but there's a real like fire in me, and it kind of sneaks up on them sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, like, when I watch you do comedy, I really connect with it, because I'm like, how is this relationship working? And it's really funny that you mind the differences and really put that out in your comedy.
Well, when we got together, I was 21 when we got together.
So you did a lot of learning through that relationship and growing, I guess.
Yeah. And he was a very kind of, he was the blue-eyed boy of his family and a rugby player, and just wasn't particularly kind of conscious of having to take other people's needs into consideration. And I was just this very hot-headed, so it was a clash of titans, and everyone was just like, well, why are you two together? It's ridiculous. But once we kind of clash heads, we just learned to accommodate a little bit, and then it's all kind of mellowed out. And now I think we had one argument during lockdown, but apart from that, we don't argue.
That's amazing, because you got all your arguments out at the start.
got most of the arguments out on the start. And also, stand-up comedy means you get to vent a lot.
Yeah, that's 100%.
So,
and if something bad happens to me, like, I write about it, and like, I'm chuckling.
And also, sometimes I feel a bit bad because I go and slag them off so much, and then I come home and my family's just really adorable. So then I end up trying to be even nicer at home.
You say you slag him off, but all I get a sense of when I'm actually watching you perform is the love. And even when I asked you about it, like, you may not have seen it, but like the apples of your cheeks kind of like lifted and stuff, and you were a little bit like there's a lot of like micro expression love that comes out when you talk about him on stage.
Right.
It doesn't feel like he's on the back foot. It
feels
no. The reason he's part of your stand-up is because...
You know, and he gets upset if he comes to watch me and he's not mentioned. And he feels that suddenly... he's like, suddenly, oh my God, why is she not talking about me? Does she, not care as much? There was stuff that I used to do about my children a lot more, about the frustration of children a lot more. But as they're getting older, I now have to talk them through what I say about them on stage and what that means. And so there are certain things I used to do a joke about my daughter, which was completely just kind of projection on the future, because she was a baby at the time, so it was just like projection of what she might have to deal with in terms of body. And the moment I spoke to my husband, and my husband was like, look, with everything, the kids know you and the kids know family life and our relationship, but anything that he was like, being a girl, we don't want, and I took that on board. I was like, yeah, that's 100% correct. I mean, at the moment, this is a baby. She's got no projection of her image, but as she gets older, she might, it's going to be something which is quite uncomfortable.
A lot of sensitivity that comes in, like when you're performing about your family and stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
I often think that when I watch comedians, even on TV or face to face, and they are talking about their kids and stuff. Yeah, I'm like, to what extent are they sort of saying, this is an art form and it's, it's got no link to like my action.
Yeah. So the kids now know that it's a stage persona. But also it's a difficult one for women because men don't get hate for talking about their children on stage, because dads are allowed. It's almost
they can be the bumbling sort of.
Yeah.
Oh, what do I do?
Yeah, dads are allowed to be an idiot. They're allowed to feel trapped. They're allowed to feel, because we've got this whole narrative which is still really aggressively strong in British culture, that there's still this thing of like women are desperate to settle down, they're desperate to ensnare a man, they're desperate to have a family, and once they've got him and they've got children, and he's just this poor victim who's been lured into it, and now everything's just this tiring, it's tiring for him, and he's run down.
You cover this in your stand-up as well.
Yeah, so and so if a male comedian stands on stage and says, I'm knackered, and they piss me off, and people are automatically like, oh, that poor sod. Whereas then when a woman does it, people are like, you fucking bitch. Those poor kids.
Work harder, yeah.
And I was talking about this. I mean, there was an article in the Independent by Shappy called Sandy, which actually references me and Jen Brister in it, because she's saying, the fact that women are still, their voices are still being really restrained when they talk about motherhood.
It's weird because like there's so much talk about women by women now, like exactly what we're talking about now, like a lot of empowerment messages, but it still feels like not much has changed. I don't know why. I think it'll take like 10 more years, but it feels like it's been going a while. Because I'm still there talking about vagina on stage and stuff, but there is an element of just like people shutting off to various messages if they've heard them too much, even though it should have changed by this point.
There's also that thing of like, women will talk about the same topic, so we don't want to hear it more than once. That's not an issue for men.
That's true.
So men can be repetitive, and it doesn't mean that what they're saying, like I love Dara O'Brien and I love Michael McIntyre, and I love John Bishop, and Jason Manford, but they all cover marriage with kids at some point. They all cover it. Ramesh Ranganathan, they all cover it, and I don't feel that it's repetitive. I feel like they're all telling their individual frustrations. They've all got different styles of jokes. But it's ironic that if me and Jen Brister and Jess Fostergear were on the same lineup, it's like, oh, we've got 3 mums and they're all going to... And it's like, yeah, but every single take is different. And there may be crossover of patterns, but also this idea of, even if it's a very young audience who don't have children and blah, 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 the idea that they're not going to find it funny, or it's like, oh, it's not as funny if it's a woman doing it, and that men don't have that as well. It's something I've become really aggressively passionate about since doing comedy, because before before doing comedy, before I had children, I honestly thought we were progressing to be quite an equal society. I had children and I realised the kind of misogyny towards mothers. And then when I got into comedy, I was like, wow.
Yeah, there's no element of like, if you're a mother, it's quite difficult to be kind of silly about it, which I guess is where your voice comes into it a little bit, where you're like filled with emotion and rage and you're kind of delivering that message a little bit deeper into someone.
Yeah.
Because like they've done a study, haven't they? Like if you're portraying a specific emotion while you're talking, you're more likely to influence those around you into the same emotion.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So like expressions or, if you laugh on stage, like that will break some kind of tension. So it's like a pack mentality that humans have, don't they? They like absorb emotion from other people. It's like
that's so true.
It's telepathic sometimes.
That's so
scary.
True. Yeah. That's probably why some people, they could literally go on stage and just read a menu and people would laugh because their way of talking. I was saying that the other day about Cole Donnelly. Mm-hmm. Cole Donnelly could literally go on stage and read a menu and you'd laugh because the way he talks.
There's two schools of thought, isn't there? There's the material and then there's doesn't matter what the hell you're saying if you say it in a specific way.
He does have excellent material, which makes it even more annoying. But he's also he's also just got a way where he does this little, he just does this little, I can't describe it, but he'd just be like, he'll say a sentence, but at the end he'll just go, that's fine, and it's just the way he does this little gurn. It just makes the audience giggle because it's almost like you're laughing at him portraying himself in this awkward way.
Are there any tells that you feel like you have on stage that you're like, oh, when I do this face, sometimes I get a laugh or whatever, or have you not?
Oh yeah,
in that way. Because when we do stand-up, like, the level of analysis into every little bit that we do,
it's amazing, isn't it?
Deep. Yeah.
It's amazing when you go and deliver a joke and you're like, how is that joke smashed 8 times in a row and for the last 2 times it's died on its arse? And then you'll listen back and it will literally be, oh, the first 8 times I put the intonation on that syllable and for the last 2 times the intonation was at the end. So it completely changes the energy.
Yep, I've had that. Oh, I sped through that joke and it didn't sound like I was confident in it. Well, no shit, no one laughed. So they just want me to get through that joke and then
if you don't appear confident, there's something like, oh.
Yeah, exactly.
And we've all been there.
I think, especially like when you're a female as well, it's that element of, oh, you're vulnerable and now I'm pitying you because you're not confident. It's a double whammy. You have
to crawl over the hurdle that when you walk on stage, people's automatic reaction is, and you have to win them over.
True that. It's hard.
It is.
Speaking about hard, this is such a shit segue, this one in particular. It's actually really difficult to make a bottle of champagne. Did you know that, Esther? It takes a long time. There's a lot of manual process in it as well if like you're a really good champagne house, so that's why sometimes it's quite premium. Basically, they harvest the grapes. They press them really gently because some of the grapes that make up a champagne are actually black grapes or red grapes. So in order to so champagne can be made from 3 grape varieties. Thanks, Esther. One is Chardonnay. This one is 100% Chardonnay. That's why it's called Blanc de Blanc, which means white of whites. So only white grapes are used in this style. Okay.
So this is like the Farage of champagne.
This is like, EDL or whatever that is. Yeah. And then you've got Pinot Meunier, which is also a white grape. And then Pinot Noir actually makes champagne, if it's not a Blanc de Blanc.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Pinot Noir is in champagne.
I'm going to have to do some champagne shopping for Christmas.
There you go.
I'm spending Christmas with my in-laws. I'm going to have to do a lot of champagne shopping.
Because British people love champagne.
And they have to be incredibly drunk to spend time with each other.
100%. Like, I was talking to the Humble Grape staff earlier today and just being like, oh, this looks really Christmassy around here because we're in Canary Wharf in Humble Grape right now. It's a wine bar. And they were like, yeah, Brits really do like a drink over Christmas.
It's a social lubricant. Yeah. It's amazing. I was in Dubai and my cousin went to a wedding, and so my cousin's Lebanese and his friend is Lebanese but marrying an English woman, and they came back from the wedding and they were just going to me and my husband that because with Lebanese you eat and then you dance. You don't have to be drunk. Like, so you're socialising, you're dancing, you're chatting. I mean, people will drink, but there's not this need to be drunk. And the young people, like the younger people might stay late into the night and have a few drinks, but there's not this binge drinking. Like, you don't just start from the moment you open your eyes and just keep going. And they were like, so we've just been to this wedding and we're all dancing and all the English people just stood in a line and they were going, it wasn't until like the wedding was coming to an end. And I was like, oh yeah, what happens at British weddings is we drink all day, and then for the last hour we all just go mental on the dance floor, and they're going
the confidence,
and they're going, why? And I was like, because we're so boundaried.
Yeah.
But in a way, we talk about it in this kind of positive and positive versus negative way. But when you come, and you'll see this being Italian and Polish, you can see the positive and negatives in both. Like when you're with your Mediterranean side, and you're like, yes, you don't have boundaries, and you're a lot louder, and you're a lot friendlier and chattier and all this of it. But then also, you're going to feel a lot more comfortable about telling me I look like a piece of shit. Whereas I quite like the fact that when I'm with my British side, people won't say that to me.
Yeah, it's a nicer pace of life. I think we're a little bit more, as Brits, like polite and kind and all that kind of stuff.
The politeness, you suddenly go, oh, that's nice. You don't just walk into a room and someone goes, why haven't you had your teeth done? And you're
that's the struggle. Maybe you find this as well, being British and born British. Like, it cuts a little bit deeper when your Italian side or Lebanese side kind of do that to you, because you've been raised with all this politeness. We can be quite sensitive, I think, in the eyes of our
really? When it comes
parents.
because people don't make comments on appearances. Yeah. Whereas they'll say it, and it's not a big thing. Yeah. It's just like, well, why don't you change that about yourself? You'd look better. And you're like, oh my God, it hurts. Heartbreaking.
But then at the same time, when I'm doing comedy, like, I've started trying to, when I feel an emotion, that's when I start exploring. And because I feel so many emotions, because I live with my parents at the moment, and I'm just like, want to punch a wall.
Yeah.
I'm writing more, because we're just like a little bit more sensitive to stuff.
Well, that was the amazing thing with lockdown, is that people were like, oh, I've got nothing to write about. And I was like, well, actually, being locked in a house with my family, I wrote so much because the emotion was feeling really, like the frustration was just bubbling.
Yeah.
So 100%. I was just like constantly writing.
You must have gotten a new show out of it then.
Well, yeah.
Basically.
I mean, the show that I'm doing now, a lot of it. But I mean, also because, lockdown just set women back hundreds of years. Yeah. All the women that I knew who were so like, oh, I love my husband, he's so amazing, were suddenly going, why doesn't he think that any of the childcare is his responsibility? So we was put in a scenario where they're like, right, you're going to be locked in your house, you've got to homeschool your children, and you've got to work from home. And literally 90% of the mums I knew were like, I'm doing all the homeschooling, all the childcare, and working from home, and he just goes and works in the office. And I was suddenly like, I felt this bond with all these women who before were like, would never say anything negative about their other half.
Yeah, but they actually see the day-to-day, and work is work, okay, I understand, but there's nothing stopping you. Like, if you're sat at home all day, like, doing something for 10 minutes, it really takes the load off the other person. Whereas the other person's probably doing, like, the female is also doing home office working, and then all of the other stuff.
Yeah. And then, so that was
Have you read the book Invisible Women?
No.
You should, because it covers a lot of, like, but in a data way, and like how towns are not designed for mothers, and like the way they use transport and stuff is very different. For example, like, men will go into the centre to work in the office, but like there are very few links, kind of like suburb to suburb, so you can't get your kids to school and stuff.
I saw somebody post, this was something I noticed, my husband and I got on the train, got on the tube, and we were separate. And he had the baby, and the baby was crying, my girl was crying, and the amount of love that people were like, no, looking at him so adoringly. And I thought, I've got on the tube so many times with my children, they've been crying, and people have been tutting, like, for some reason I'm enjoying the crying, and I've seen it, they do it to other women. So now when a woman gets on with a baby and the baby's crying, I really try my best to make eye contact, smile, do the we've all been there type thing. And I saw a comedian who I won't name, but they went and put a post out on Facebook, and it took every fibre of my being not to absolutely lose my shit. But they were like, do you think that maybe you can't, like, to the mother that brought her child on the tube, who screamed all the way on the tube during rush hour, do you think maybe you could choose a better time to travel on public transport? And I was like, do you think maybe she was dropping that kid at nursery before she goes and does a long day at work? Yeah. Sorry, did your mum stay inside with you when you were a child? And how would you have felt if someone cussed your mum out on social media? I was so close, but I thought, no, I'm not going to get into an argument.
I'll just write this down. On
social media.
Yeah.
Because it's toxic out there.
It is toxic out there. God damn it. But you've covered a few things there. How to unpack this. Okay. But taking it back
to
the
half a glass of champagne.
So we know there's 3 grapes that go into champagne normally, apart from this one, it's Blanc de Blanc. What 3 topics are your main go-tos when you're on stage? What's your blend of champagne?
Right, so I would say I talk about motherhood, I talk about marriage, and I talk about ethnicity. They're my three things.
Do.
But I also would say feminism, because I do quite like my recent show, Not All Men, is a very feminist show. So it touches
Would you say that that's the undercurrent that...
Yeah. Yeah, I look at everything from a feminist perspective, yeah. And because I'm an old school feminist as well.
Yeah.
What does
that mean?
Well, when I was at school, nobody else would say they was feminist because I went to school in the 90s where that was a dirty word. But I was like, well, I am one, and people would be like, oh God, she's such a weird lesbian, and she's got a chip on her shoulder. Yeah, all those stereotypes. So I've been kind of proudly saying I'm a feminist since a very early age.
I think that comes out in your comedy a lot. Like, it's a very pure feminism. It's a very thought-through feminism. It's not just the kind of feminism that you lay over a joke to kind of make it fit in with the persona of being a female stand-up. It's, it runs deep within you. Yeah,
and I think now that I've, obviously I've got a son, and I think I try to look at it for the show that I'm doing now, and will take to Edinburgh, is definitely trying to look at feminism from perspective of a male perspective, and trying to look at why feminism is really important for young men.
Would you kind of interview your sons or your husband to get to that, or is it kind of like what you see through everyday interaction?
I think the more we look, and especially being in comedy, and you see these things come out in comedy about how guys are treating women, and I just think it's such a ugly to have that hatred in you towards other people.
Yeah.
I can't imagine if you're looking, and I was trying to think about it myself, if we as women saw men as these inadequate, less worthy beings, how much it must really damage your mental health. And it creates a real problematic kind of way of thinking.
I've always, it's a lesson I learned very recently. It's where you judge someone the most is where you have been most vulnerable, or where you've worked so tirelessly not to be that. So, when we are judging a man for being useless and whatever, it's because we've worked so hard to have to overcome it, which we do as females in society.
Yeah, but also men, it's not that men are you. It's like I get annoyed when it's kind of like, oh, they are just useless. It's like, no, they're not. It's that they have been completely sidestepped. So I was trying to explain to someone, I was like, if the reason why my husband doesn't feel the need to have the house spotless is that if somebody walks into our house and he's sat there with the children and the house is a tip, the judgment still falls on me. Yeah, it doesn't fall on him, and he knows that. And if that was the same for me, if I knew that I could kind of have this more relaxed attitude, I would. But the social pressure is not on me. It's not on him. It's on me.
There's also an element of because we've thought about them as kind of just relax and stuff. I see this with my own parents quite a lot. That my mum ends up doing a lot for my dad. So that they don't even have the opportunity to kind of feel that independence and feel the positivity in, minding your own room and kind of hoovering your own freaking floor and all of that kind of stuff. So often that is taken away from them because it's our responsibility and because we have to kind of keep all of our ducks in order. So yeah, I do wonder what the next generation of boys is going to end up looking like, and that's with you to kind of
sort them out,
kick it off, sort them out.
Yeah,
it's exciting, man.
Yeah, and just giving them the kind of responsibility for their own life being, and not just constantly allowing this excuse of, oh, well, boys will be boys. It's like, well, no, people are people.
They're very heavy topics, though. How do you find the lightheartedness in it when you're on stage?
I think anything that people can relate to, they're going to find joy in.
That's fair. I recently did a joke about being female and how we kind of it was about NASA, and they've launched a new rocket out there into space and just to test it. And my joke was about how we launch little mini arguments to test relationships.
That's true, yeah.
See. And I didn't get a laugh from this big rugby guy bloke in the back of the room, but I saw him nodding and elbowing his, he'd recently gone through a breakup, and that's exactly what happened. And I don't care, I got laughs through that set, but that was the moment where I was like, now I'm happy with this set.
Right, okay.
Didn't need the laugh from that guy, but the nod, wow.
Yeah.
That was
of recognising.
Yeah. That's the bit I need to mine.
And also the fact that women sometimes don't feel comfortable in stating their boundaries. So women can be very much like, you know, I don't want to push it too far because I don't want to be this kind of nag. I don't want to be this person who whines on. And actually, if we can learn that language to just be really clear on what our boundaries are.
I'm learning this as well through comedy and relationships. It's being yourself from the very get-go and not minimizing, you know, all of these challenges that you have. Like, oh, I'm going to be nice today. I'm going to bite my tongue and stuff. And then brewing, much like champagne.
Yeah.
The pressure fucking...
Oh, it will pop.
It will pop at 24.8 miles per hour. It's another little fact for you.
Oh, it's a hard one, isn't it, to merge with somebody else and take on all their
But it's also
foibles.
the stand-up world, because you have to kind of be that person within the first 10 seconds of being on stage. People need to understand what it is, and then...
That's what I'm struggling with at the moment.
Your openers.
Yeah, I just want to bang an opener, and I keep playing around with stuff, and I haven't found it yet. Once I get through my first couple of jokes, it's right, we're off. But I haven't got that opening.
Don't you think a lot of the importance is in the setup and the build?
I mean, it's great, but I do want, because with my show, I've got a really strong opener, which I can't use in clubs. But I really enjoyed when I was doing my show, just having that really good, strong, because I start my show off with a little dance.
Do you?
Yeah.
That's new. I haven't seen your most recent one.
Yeah, a little dance. Yeah.
You seem really proud of that. You're like, I look great.
I don't look great. It's not sexy.
Oh my God, amazing. And you can't do that in clubs. Why?
Yeah, I don't know how 6 groups of stag do's would do. I mean, if they're going to watch a woman dance, it's definitely not going to be...
They should be paying for it a little bit
a mum in her late 30s doing very, very poor standard high kicks.
I don't know. Everyone has their kink, Esther.
That's true. That could be the kink. That could be the kink one. Of Barry in Nottingham.
Okay, so you're working on your... I've got one kind of last question for you. It's to do with how wine ages in its bottle. Champagne changes over time. So it'll get like some honey notes maybe, some toasted nut flavours. Really, really beautiful. How do you think your comedy is going to change in the next few years?
Well, because it's so much about family, I think as my family grow up and we head into
the teens
and me and my half are more middle-aged and people growing older around us, it's all going to change, and, you know, body issues will change and all sorts of things will change. So I think, as my life will change, so will my observations.
Are you going to get more or less kind of emotion-driven? Where's the emotion going to change?
I can't imagine that I'll become less emotional.
Cool.
No, I can't imagine that will happen. I'm not going to end up one of those very cool, slick... You know, you get stand-ups who are just very cool, very slick, very, smooth. It's not me. I literally have a meltdown on the stage. I enjoy that, yeah.
That's how I feel after a glass of champagne, though.
Just having a meltdown.
Yeah. Because it's normally a big occasion. I'm like, it's New Year's Eve.
Oh, yeah.
And you're drinking something fizzy.
Yeah.
There's always that weird situation. All the emotion just starts.
Yeah. What are you doing
wine is dangerous.
What are you doing for New Year's?
I don't know yet, but it's always an anticlimax for me. So I'm always like, by this point in the year, should I book something? Should I go somewhere? What should I do?
Yeah.
I don't want to be the organizer or something like that. That's way too much pressure.
No. That's really stressful.
What about you? What do you do?
We go and stay in a cottage every year.
That's nice. Because you know what you're getting, and
we know what we're doing. We go with a group of friends. The children just go off and play. They have a little party to begin with. So they all have their party and their meal. And then we put them to bed where literally they can just do what they want as long as they stay upstairs. And then we each cook a course. And then and just drink a lot of wine and eat a lot of food and play some games.
That's literally the dream. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, we've done that for about 7 years now.
So to get cracking on the family first and then...
Well, you can do that with friends.
Make a family?
No, not make family.
Friends with benefits, no, Esther.
No, don't make family. No, but you can go away with friends. That might be a nice idea.
I just like the idea of the kids thing, because I remember being a kid and having New Year's Eve with families and stuff. And they're good memories.
Well, they're good memories because your parents don't give a shit.
They don't. And you know, you get up to your own little, debaucherous stuff.
Yeah.
And stuff.
You just go off and play.
Yeah.
And you know that the parents are, as long as you stay away from them, they don't care what you're doing.
As long as you're safe. As
long as you're away and you're all confined, you can joke around and mess around as much as you want.
Sounds amazing.
And they know, as soon as they hear the pop of that cork, they're like, parenting is down.
I love that you linked it at the end there, Esther. Nailed it. It's hard not to. All right. Cheers, lovely. Thank you.
Cheers. I've worked my way through this.
I know, it's delicious. Now I can just enjoy it. So that was Esther Manito on the Comedy Wine List. Do follow us on Instagram at the Comedy Wine List. You can also follow Esther on Instagram at Esther Manito. Champagne. We're ready for Christmas, we're ready for New Year's Eve. It's the perfect time of year to pop that cork. And it's also the perfect time of year to explore comedy, explore Esther's comedy. If you don't already know, on the Comedy Wine List, it's not only a wine list, it's a comedy list. So if you enjoy Esther's comedy, you can also click on Jinia Cheng's comedy, for example, her episode. And the artwork on Spotify and on Apple is very similar in background. So if you spot pink with a kind of black undertone, you might get some similar flavours from those comedians. That's the whole point of this endeavour. It's linking different comics together. If you found Esther and you really enjoy her comedy, it's linking you to someone else. Or alternatively, if you like champagne, you might like some kind of rosé, a light style of rosé, so maybe click on Susie Priest as well. And you can do it the other way. If you're a Malbec lover, why don't you check out Luke Craig's episode? You might like his smooth and playful way. And if you discover that you liked his comedy and you like Malbec, you might want to click on a Rioja from Spain, for example, in our first series. So learn about yourself a little bit. Thank you for joining us on the Comedy Wine List. That was the last episode of Series 2, End on a Bang. We will be back in the new year. Season 3, we'll see, maybe it's some USA wines, as I'll be travelling in January, hopefully. But we'll see. If you want to request a specific region or a very specific type of wine that you definitely want me to pair with a comic and explore and understand and learn about, then drop me a note. It's at the Comedy Wine List on Instagram. Thank you for listening. And cheers, we will see you in the new year.